You got this, Bryan. So I'm back in the US after 2.5 years of living in France and Belgium, and I've noticed that my approach to many things feels very different from when I last lived here. My time in Europe has definitely rewired the way I do many things in my life, the way I do things in my work, the way I interact with people, and I think this all comes down to a few very French cultural traits that I've absorbed almost without realizing it. Now, these things might sound small, but they've made me feel a lot lighter, they've made me more confident, and even happier in my daily life. So I thought it'd be worth it to share 3 of the biggest ones with you today. So without further ado, let's get into it. Number 1, knowing what truly matters. One thing the French are really good at is distilling what really matters to them, and then giving the absolute bare minimum for everything else. For example, at the macro level, they'll dedicate the vast majority of their time and energy to their close friends, their family, and their hobbies. And this means that they don't have much left for anyone or anything else. And this is a reason why French people are nowhere near as eager to meet new people or network as Americans, for example. Or at least not by themselves. The main way that you would make new friends as a French person is through the people that are already close to you, introducing you to their close friends. And this usually happens when they invite you to go for drinks with them or at a house party, for example. But I feel like this works because you're filtering in the people that you're more likely to relate to since you already share close friends. And that has more weight than the spontaneous encounters that are way more common here in the US, for example. I also spent a total of 4 semesters studying in French business schools. So I've been able to work with French students a lot for many group projects. And I've noticed that they deliberately spend as little time as possible working on these projects. They either finish up their part of the project really early so they can go skiing or whatever, or they don't start working until the very last minute. Pretty much all of my French classmates did this. And the funny thing is, the results that they got from this approach were just fine. Like, of course, I always had better grades than them, but it was never that big of a difference. What this means is that they got more free time and they were able to enjoy themselves as much as possible, while I chose to spend extra hours working at home, fussing over all the details and how to put up my best work. And in the end, it didn't make that much of a difference anyway. And all of this goes hand in hand with what they do at the micro level. In my experience, French people are really good at identifying the essential components of the work at hand and focusing only on the things that affect the final outcome. They deliberately ignore the details that are ultimately inconsequential, and I feel like this is the polar opposite of the American approach, where we kill ourselves trying to make everything as precise and as perfect as possible, rather than risk any part of our work coming across as sloppy or unpolished. To show you just how prevalent and inherent this approach is amongst French people, here are some phrases that you'd hear all the time when French people speak about work. Vite fait, c'est pas grave, ça passe. I think you get my point. Despite everything I'm telling you, I really don't want to feed into the stereotype that French people are lazy, because in my experience, they can be some of the most obsessed people you can meet when it comes to something that they're really passionate about. All you have to do is just look at how hard French chefs and French artists work. Anyways, I use this as a constant reminder to not waste my energy on people who don't deserve it, as well as to be mindful of how much time I can waste trying to make every little thing perfect in my work. Number 2, confidence can get you a long, long way. Contrary to the image that most people have of French people, they aren't necessarily more cultured or correct than everybody else, but they sound like they are just because they're so sure of themselves. Surprise! Most French people only have a basic understanding of wine, cheese, and etiquette, but most people from other cultures automatically perceive any French person to be an encyclopedia on these things, just because of the confidence that French people project when stating even the most basic things. Even if the French don't know the answer to something, they never hesitate and they just straight up say what they think is the right answer with full conviction. And because of that, people rarely question them. And seeing the results that French people get with this kind of approach and this kind of attitude has definitely influenced me to, be as assertive as I can with everything I say. Related to this point is that in French culture, it's not always about having ideas or opinions that are objectively correct, but it's more about how well and how eloquently you develop and defend those ideas. The French education system plays a big part in reinforcing this because all high school students in France have to take exams for philosophy and literature. And in these exams, you have to write a dissertation over the course of 4 long hours. During these 4 hours, you're presented with a statement or an idea. For example, does our future depend on technology? And instead of saying yes or no and justifying why, you have to transform that question into a problématique, where you basically rewrite the question with a more precise approach so that you can answer it more easily and more effectively. To make this less confusing, in our case, one problématique that we could come up with is, does the promise of a better future through technological progress justify the growing risks of dependence and dehumanization that come with it? You then spend the rest of the 4 hours developing and analyzing every possible set of opposing perspectives that you can think of on your way to a nuanced conclusion. The focus is definitely on argumentation and critical analysis, rather than piling up cold hard facts to prove why you have the right answer. I feel like this approach empowers French people with the confidence to voice out their thoughts and their opinions instead of just keeping quiet because they're second guessing whether they're right or wrong. And it's also a big reason why French people are so comfortable casually debating each other on any topic. I could go on and on about this for hours, but the point I'm trying to make here is that absorbing this aspect of French culture has definitely made me feel way less afraid of being wrong, as long as I'm able to argue my position well. And that in turn has made me more confident in everything that I do. Number 3, embracing playfulness. Life in France feels lighter because people don't take everything seriously or personally all the time. Like even strangers tease each other all the time. It's actually quite common for people you don't know to engage you in some witty banter about anything. It could be about what you're wearing, what you're buying, something you said, or even your physical traits. And I feel like this is almost the exact opposite of the social climate in America, where you're always walking on eggshells trying to say everything as delicately and as precisely as possible, because you definitely don't want to risk offending anyone with anything. And because offending someone is the worst thing you can do. Personally, I've gotten teased in France a lot, simply because my name is Bryan. And in French culture, that name has basically been a running joke for I don't know how many years. I think it comes from an English textbook exercise where the teacher asks, "Where is Bryan?"
Where is Bryan?
And every time, the whole class has to answer,
Bryan is in the kitchen.
Whenever I introduce myself to French people with the name Bryan, 80% of the time, they immediately respond with, "Where is Bryan?" And it doesn't just happen at parties or with my friends. Cashiers did it, baristas did it, even the head chef did it when I worked as a server in what many would consider to be a classy restaurant in France. There is no escape.
Where is Julia?
I don't know, sir.
Where is Samuel?
I don't know, sir.
Where is Bryan?
Bryan is in the kitchen.
I'm pretty sure that in most other cultures, stuff like this can be considered very offensive, but I just saw how people were just trying to be genuinely playful. Like, nobody was trying to belittle me. And even if it's a very, very dumb joke, it still cracks me up to this day whenever someone says that to me. And if something as small as this, gives everyone a good laugh and makes everyone's day a little bit better, I think it's healthy. And that we definitely need more of this in the US. Well, not just in the US, but everywhere. All of this taught me not to overthink social interactions and to just go for it if I have something funny or interesting to say. Like, I've seen time and time again how easily even awkwardness or dumb jokes can turn into real connection. And there you have it. I know this video was a bit quirky, so if you're still here watching until the end, I'm really happy that you liked it enough to stay. Thank you so much for all your support on my last video. Like, I genuinely enjoyed reading every single one of your comments. Like, it is some heartwarming stuff. Please feel free to leave a comment on this video as well. And I guess that's it for today. I guess I'll see you next time. Bye-bye now.